worked really long hours and actually did the law. You know, there were a lot of judges who kind of had a reputation of they wanted a certain result, and so they did what they needed to do to get to that result. And Judge Garland wasn't like that. He was somebody who I think really took the law seriously and the process seriously, and he was somebody who we couldn't really predict how he would come out on various issues. You know, there were some judges you could always predict, but when it came to Judge Garland, you couldn't tell because it depended how he did the law.
This is a guy who paid his way through law school as a shoe store stock clerk, tutored kids in Washington, and also prosecuted Timothy McVeigh and Unabomber walked around. He actually walked around where?
He was actually in the site, of the sort of the devastation in Oklahoma City and met with victims and actually did some of the work to really try to get the victim sides of the story in. And that too is really unique, I think. Okay. This is somebody who prosecuted more terrorism crimes really than anyone else and who now sits on the bench.
So that is the qualification side. Macon, I know, you disagree. We played the sound from Senator Hatch from, 1997. As recent as a couple of weeks ago, he was supporting this notion of Judge Garland as a pick. Why do you stand by Republicans in saying no?
Well, let me just first say that as far as him, and I've known Judge Garland personally in D.C., anybody who has been in the legal community there knows him, and he's an absolute first-rate class act. The issue is not so much who the person is who's been nominated. It's a time we're in right now. It is an election year. People have already started voting for the next president. And, the Republicans made it very clear up front that it really doesn't matter who the nominee is. The fact that it's Judge Garland and he's well qualified, as would have been, half a dozen other folks the president may have been considering, makes no difference. It's the issue of the court, and it's also Justice Scalia's seat. Justice Scalia's ideology and the balance of the court happens to be hanging. And they said, let's wait till the American people have decided.
No, the stakes are huge. I mean, it's 4-4 right now, liberals and conservatives. But Macon, the fact that, the Senator McConnell and others aren't even holding hearings. They won't meet with him. Some of them won't meet with him when he goes to the Hill tomorrow. They won't even, take the step of doing FBI background checks. Is that appropriate?
I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I think it would be might be a waste of both their resources and time to go through a process to do that. Now, I know there has been some talk about possible action after the election, and depending on who the winner is, so if a Democratic nominee becomes the president, maybe you'll get quick action on Judge Garland for confirmation to the Supreme Court, and perhaps there'll be some preliminary background checks. As far as what the Senate does with its role in the advice and consent process, I mean, the president is very keen on saying elections have consequences, and he became president, and therefore he has the right to nominate. But in 2014, the American people elected a majority Senate Republican, and they have the right to not provide that consent, just like Senator Schumer and then Senator Biden took the floor and said there shouldn't be in an election year. Again, it has nothing to do with Judge Garland, his qualifications, or his incredible personal traits.
I hear you. It's not on qualifications. It's on process. But to you, Jay, and I know both of you know him, but to know, I mean, he stood there today at the Rose Garden saying, I'm paraphrasing, this is the biggest honor of my life. Yet he has to know what he's walking into, and so for Judge Garland, just the human being, the man walking into the middle of a massive fight. What will that be like for him?
Which, I thought that was actually a really stirring speech that he gave at the Rose Garden. I think actually, yeah, he welled up. He was fighting back tears, talking about his wife and his grandfather.